The sun beat down on the garden patio as Dad marched out, holding a massive wooden spoon aloft like a royal scepter.
He stopped, planted his feet, and pointed the handle directly toward the kitchen door.
Today, we settle this. The ice cream challenge begins now. He stood tall,
projecting the authority of a man who believed his victory was already secured. Laiba and Halima stood near the edge of the patio, watching him. They did not blink. Instead, they exchanged a sharp, knowing look.
They had been whispering about this contest for days, mapping out their moves while he practiced his technique in private.
The air between them hummed with silent competition. Dad puffed out his chest, completely unaware that his challengers had already outmaneuvered him. He gestured toward the house with his spoon, signaling the start of the battle. Laiba stepped forward, her movements precise and quick. Halima followed close behind, her eyes locked on the kitchen entrance. They moved past their father with purpose,
leaving him to boast to the empty garden. As the screen door swung shut behind them,
the real work began. They were not just here to participate, they were here to humble the champion. Inside the kitchen, the temperature dropped as the freezer doors swung open. Laiba reached for the strawberry syrup, squeezing a thick, vibrant line across her bowl. She added scoop after scoop, locking them in place with colorful, crunchy candies. Every placement was deliberate, a structural gamble. Nearby, Halima worked with frantic speed. She jammed cookies into the sides to form ears,
using marshmallows to carve a wide, goofy grin. She turned her bowl, showing off a chocolate-drizzled face that defied the symmetry of the kitchen table.
Then the door creaked. Dad marched in, his presence demanding the entire room. He ignored their progress, reaching for his own supplies with military precision. He began stacking scoops, vanilla, chocolate, mint, piling them higher and higher. He did not look at the girls.
He watched his own tower, his eyes narrowed in total concentration. "Watch the master," he declared.
His voice steady even as his hands trembled slightly from the weight. He balanced a final,
precarious scoop on the absolute peak. The kitchen became a workshop of sugar and ambition, with 3 distinct towers rising toward the ceiling, each one trying to outdo the gravity that pulled at the melting cream. Dad reached for the final cherry, his fingers hovering over the peak of his towering construction.
He moved with the slow, deliberate care of a bomb technician. The kitchen grew deathly quiet.
Even the hum of the refrigerator seemed to fade into the background. Laiba stopped her work, her spoon poised in midair. Halima lowered her bowl, her eyes fixed on the summit of the vanilla and chocolate mountain. The tower was a masterpiece of defiance, but it was reaching its limit. A single bead of condensation rolled down the side of the mint base,
carving a wet track through the sugar. Dad held his breath,
his arm steadying as he prepared to place the cherry. Then the base scoop of mint let out a faint, wet slide. It shifted just a fraction of an inch against the plate. The entire structure wobbled. It tilted heavily to the left, then corrected itself with a sickening sway to the right. Dad froze. His hand remained suspended in the air, the cherry still held between his thumb and forefinger. The girls leaned in,
their knuckles white as they gripped the edge of the counter. Nobody spoke. The tower was alive with instability,
vibrating in the heavy, warm air of the kitchen, waiting for the final, inevitable, gravity-fed failure. The mint base finally gave way. The tower did not just fall. It surrendered to gravity in one fluid, chaotic motion. It tilted sharply, the chocolate and vanilla layers sliding in opposite directions like a tectonic plate shift.
Dad lunged, his hands sweeping out to catch the peak, but his fingers only swiped through empty air and a falling scoop of mint.
The structure hit the table with a wet, heavy thud. It exploded outward, splattering across the surface in a sticky, multicolored mess. A smear of chocolate landed directly on his forehead,
sliding down toward his nose. For one heartbeat, there was total silence in the kitchen. Then,
Laiba let out a sharp, sudden bark of laughter. Halima followed, her shoulders shaking as she clutched her stomach. The sound filled the room, growing louder with every passing second until it was uncontrollable. Dad blinked,
wiped the chocolate from his brow with a slow, deliberate thumb, and looked at the ruined mountain.
He caught their eyes, his own mouth twitching, and then he started laughing too. The disaster was total, the kitchen was a wreck, and the tension of the competition vanished into a chorus of pure, loud giggles that echoed off the cabinets. They were no longer rivals, they were witnesses to the greatest, sweetest failure of the summer.
Mom walked in, her footsteps quiet against the sticky floor. She surveyed the table, the splattered layers, and the three faces smeared with cream. She dipped a spoon into the rainbow mountain, then tasted the cookie-eyed creation, and finally scooped a piece of the fallen disaster. She looked up and smiled. Laiba is the artist, she announced, and Halima is the comedian. But Dad is the messy winner. Without another word, they all grabbed spoons. The kitchen table became the center of the world as they dug into the shared mess. They scraped the plates clean, the ice cream melting into a sweet, sticky soup. Outside, the light shifted from bright gold to a deep, cooling orange as the sun dipped below the garden fence. Dad leaned back, his face streaked with melting cream. "Next challenge," he declared, his voice echoing in the quiet room. "Who can eat the slowest?" Before the words finished, he shoved a massive, dripping spoonful into his own mouth.
The table exploded in laughter once more, the garden filled with the sound of a family enjoying the sweet,
sticky end of their contest, lingering in the long, cooling shadows of the day.